So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world when you watch this. My name's Stuart Easton from Transparent Choice, and Al Zeitoun and I have decided that we are going to spend the next few weeks, possibly a few months, busting some myths, project management myths. So we are the Project Management Mythbusters. Quick 5-minute videos on one topic each week. We're going to try and do one every week. Roll them out on Fridays probably, so you can enjoy them over the weekend. So grab a cup of tea and join us every Friday for these sessions. This week's topic is about project failure. Right? People think projects fail because of, I didn't have enough resources or something like that. And this is the first myth that we're going to bust. Right? The topic is about how projects fail before they even begin, usually. Right? So it's all about why projects fail, and then we might even have time to talk about how to fix it a little bit, right?
That'd be fantastic. And I think you and I, when we connected last time, and this came up, we both agreed we have a lot in common when it comes to that. I think even on the recent webinar we did, I mentioned the example of this global organization in Germany when I thought we must have been super successful. We did an awesome job. We delivered, they paid, the customer seemed happy. Yet, in fact, we truly solved the wrong problem. And that was a very tough meeting and a tough conversation. So for the ones listening, projects failing before they start, you think a lot, to Stu's point, about resources. You think about, I didn't have enough planning time, I didn't have this and that. The reality is, before I also get Stu's take on data, is if you look at transformation projects or all kinds of projects that you might be involved with, and even if you look at the classic numbers from the Gartners of the world and 70% of projects failing, especially in the transformation space, it says something about the rationale behind these projects. In my opinion, Stu, is that they failed because they start for the wrong reason. And to me, that's fixable. And we want to talk about that a little bit. But I'm curious about the data that you have, because that
Yeah, no, you're spot on. So that 70% number is terrifying, right? If that's even remotely true, it's terrifying.
yeah.
The last PMI data I saw was that 30% of projects, 30,
Yeah.
fail completely, budget lost, everything, right? So think about that, right? If 30% of your projects are failing totally, right, complete wreck,
Yeah. Yeah.
then that's like, you drive to work every day. And so that's like your car bursting into flames 6 or 7 times a month, just trying to get to work, right? Would
Yeah.
you keep that car? No, you would not. You would get rid of it.
I
So,
have a story there too, but I'm not going to go there.
well, that could be after you've had your morning coffee, Al.
That's right.
So there was a really interesting study done by the University of New South Wales a few years ago, I think about four years ago, something like that. And they looked at the causes of project failure. And what they discovered is that 40% of the causes of project failure happen before the project has even begun. Right? Now, but I think it's worse than that. In fact, I know it's worse than that, because when you look at the causes of project failure that they had, that were ones during the project, it was things like, oh, we don't have enough resources. Well, guess what? You don't have enough resources because you're trying to do too many projects. That's something that was set in train. To your point about, are we doing the right projects, the right number of projects?
Yeah.
That was set in train long before the project ever started, right? So when you do the root cause analysis, actually the root cause of most project failure happens before the project is even live, is even a project, often before there's even a project manager.
Yeah. And it should not be very foreign what we're talking about to our listeners, because the reality is we've talked about the importance of the first part of your project journey, that front end, right? The front end is super important. And taking the time to truly question, you remember even in the recent book that just come out when it comes to experience-driven cultures, the whole idea of that is if you want to experience, especially that front end is where you want to experience. You want to think about what the view of success might be like across stakeholders. You may want to think about, to your point about portfolio, what is the mix that's going to give me the ultimate growth, to the organization or to the business, whatever industry you're in. So the front end piece and asking some of the tough questions, experimenting with the different views, getting allowing questioning, that safety we've talked about over the years.
Mm,
That's where I
mm,
see our chances to, truly almost skyrocketing at that point. So something to be said about the early part of the project and what we are really trying to talk about here. Hey, be strategic about it. Don't just jump into it. We always get excited when a project and a budget is given to a team. Hey, we want to show that we can do this. Do what? So question the what, question most importantly the value, the definition of success, whether you interact further with us on how to do that best or have other resources like the PMI recent work on project success and so forth. Try to equip yourself with some of those changes first. But ultimately, what we are encouraging today is to flip this on its head and think about that, trying to really tackle this myth. Projects are not going to be determined from a successful standpoint later on in the journey. That success is going to be determined way up front. Yeah.
And so in other words, if your project's set up to fail,
Yeah.
no amount of project management, no matter how good, is going to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's never about project management success. It's really about the project success.
Absolutely. So I tell you, so you've got a new book out about transformation, all this kind of good,
Yeah.
transformational change.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is about culture. So I mean, what is it in the culture of organizations and in the culture of PMOs and project delivery teams
Yeah.
that's getting in the way of fixing this, do you think?
It's a lot. It's really mindset more than anything else. And to be frank, whether in that work or the previous work I've had on program management, when I tried to, shift towards much more value focused than project, classic focus of schedule and budgets and so forth, it's a mindset shift, which means I need your executive team, my executive team, to truly understand what are the kinds of things that they need to be doing to allow their teams to be at their best. Means what? In a digitalization world, how much experimentation can they do? What's the risk appetite? How to build that? Means they are much more intentional about a culture in the organization that builds on all these principles we've talked about over the years in terms of agility and operating and so forth. It's really walking the talk in terms of how the fundamentals of that culture allow project teams to capitalize on what crucial moments we have in time right now. We sit in 2025 and we have matured pretty much the accessibility to technology, to tools, to prioritization tools like the one your team has built over the years, to the beauty of AI and insights that we have. But that, I call it the fine balance of a human to human empathetic utilization of technology. That's the kind of culture I'm looking for because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, the potential is fundamentally a multiplier of where we are today. Yeah.
Well, and even just a culture just focusing on the value. You said it
Yeah.
earlier about, what is it we're trying to achieve here?
Correct.
And we I do this whole thing with ducks and eggs, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm never far from
Yeah.
a duck.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
rubber
Yeah.
ducks.
Yeah.
And so the idea, if you haven't heard it, most people will have done by now, I'm sure. But the business doesn't care about your project, right? They don't
Yeah.
care if you've got a boy duck or a girl duck. They just want eggs. They want the
Yeah.
value from the project. And if you, as a project delivery organization, if you're not putting the value at the center of everything, then how can you have successful projects? Because
Yeah.
that's it's the only thing that matters, right?
Yeah. And that's something we're going to have to tackle in one of our next tag ups as well. I mean, it's not a cliche to talk about slowing down to go faster. It is really, truly important because it does allow you to do exactly just that, is to experiment, to engage stakeholders, to look at your portfolio mix, to look at the centricity around what value truly means and what is that going to look like. Because at the end of the day, it's changing every single day. And it's, just like in the good old quality days in the eye of the beholder kind of a thing, value now is a very dynamic, fluid exercise that does require us to question, to think, to, kind of like my good old buddy John Maxwell, thinking again for a change. And that's really critical. It's good.
Awesome.
Good
Awesome. So
reflection. Love
so
it.
so
Yeah.
we've established
Yeah.
that projects fail not necessarily because of the reasons that most people think they fail, these kind of proximal reasons, the first thing you think of why it failed. But when you do the root cause analysis, the failure is baked in. And the way to fix it, you've got to do something about the culture. You've got to get everybody focused around value. And
Yeah.
you've got to have a process to make sure you know what project's going to add the most value, what the value is, and then orient your delivery around delivering that value. We just keep coming
Yeah.
back to this value word, don't we?
Yeah, be selective, just like in dating, like it's just like in finding a partner and so forth, right? You got to be very selective in how your culture and leadership and your focus drives what you include in the mix that you are focusing on in any given point in time. So yeah, it's choice
Excellent.
making is important.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. And the topic will be, why don't we pick that topic, Al? The one you just said? Go ahead.
Yeah, slow down to go faster is going to be
Slow
part of
down
it.
to go
So
faster. There we
definitely going to
go.
tackle that. Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. See you next week, guys.